Scott and I today are going to talk about light a little bit, and as we walk here, the light changes along the path, but the light also changes not only obviously hour to hour, but year to year, doesn't it?
It does, and it changes season to season, even just amazingly one section of the garden to the next. Maybe a branch breaks in the middle of wintertime, maybe a tree falls down on its own, so you almost have no control over light, and yet you have a lot of control over light. Standing and walking down this path here, you can see right along the edge it's really lush. Lots of plant material is growing, and that is because when you look up, there's actually breaks in the canopy. And if you start to look off to the side, you can see way up underneath the hemlocks or the big oaks and all that, it's really, really shady. There's barely even a weed growing on the hill up there.
Because it's real dark.
Exactly.
So over time, that may have 20 years ago had more light.
Absolutely.
And so there would be different plants there.
Correct. Let's take a walk down the path here and I can show you where we took down a tree to open up this big hole in the canopy and get more light into our garden. All right, so Dave, if you take a look to your right-hand side here, you can see that big stump that was cut. You can also see how the stump is sort of angled off to the side because that tree used to go directly up into that hole that's in the canopy now. And now as you look over, you can see how lush and beautiful all these plants here are growing by just giving them a couple more hours of sunlight during the day.
You really open this up. I mean, there's some nice light here.
There absolutely is, and that was exactly what we were trying to do.
And so a homeowner could make that choice. They could say,
Absolutely.
I have a tree, it's grown really large,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay to take it out at that point, isn't it? I think we're afraid sometimes to take trees down.
Exactly, you can't be afraid of that. Gardens are not static. They evolve over time just like anything, and then they're just your choices as the manager of your property, of your garden, of how you're gonna deal with those choices.
So if you don't want to take the tree down and you had roses in that spot, which might have been blooming,
Absolutely.
now it's time to put in some ferns or
You got it.
something that doesn't need the light.
You got it, exactly.
Obviously, Scott, under the Rhody Maximum, it is very dense. This has been here a long time, but there's advantages to full shade, isn't there?
Correct, there's a clean forest floor in here. We don't ever have to weed under here. The other thing is when it's 110 degrees out and you want a cool place to sit down and relax, put your chair there.
And obviously, we just popped into full sun.
And this creates that opportunity for a lot of the full sun plants that need that 6+ hours of sunlight a day.
All right, so, Scott, if I want to create more light somewhere, how do I figure out which tree needs to come down? Do I look at the sun every minute of the day? What do I do?
Yeah, you don't have to be that extreme. Every minute of the day is not necessary, but maybe pick 3 times during the day and try to come out and take a picture. And you can take a picture of the garden section you're trying to get more light to. You'll start to see shadows on the ground, and then you can start to turn around and figure out where those shadows are coming from and figure out which tree or which branch it is that's really causing you the problem.
All right, so Scott, I need a summary of everything we talked about.
Gardens aren't static. They're going to change over time. So you have choices when it comes to managing your canopy. And that is that you can either adjust your plantings on the ground as your canopy grows and gets more shady, so you can change to shadier plantings, or you can start to manage the canopy and the trees and the branches that are there.
And Scott, there may not be a good answer to this question, but what if a big tree falls down and you have a beautiful shade garden that's now exposed to full sun? Now what do you do?
Well, Dave, I think at that point, the choice is made for you. You've just had your canopy managed by someone else, and now you need to move those shade plants because they're going to suffer in that much sun.
Scott, thank you very much. Enlightening, I might say. It's always a pleasure to be here at Garden in the Woods. Come back every week for all of our videos at Growing Wisdom.